Hello students, this is Dr. D and I'm here to share with you some information on providing effective feedback to your peers. Peer review is a very important way that you can support the learning environment of this course. Providing feedback to your peers and your clients is a social work practice skill that will be invaluable to you. You are constantly, as a professional social worker, having to talk to either clients about something you're seeing in your therapy room, or you're talking to communities about what you see in their community. You're talking to peers about what kind of actions you're seeing them take and how that's impacting clients. So you're constantly providing feedback, and communicating what you mean in an effective manner is a very important skill indeed. Learning about ineffective and effective writing practices will improve your own writing practice. So there's a lot of reasons why you should be concerned about giving an effective peer review to your co-students here in this course. First of all, let me share with you some general guidelines. As with all assignments and interactions in this course, I expect you to use respectful language with your peers. I especially want you to focus on being kind and true with your words. If you really want to have a strong impact, you can't sugarcoat things, but you don't have to be mean about it. I want you to share specific examples of what you're referring to in your comments. You might want to say the second paragraph on page 2. The third sentence is very unclear to me. I don't know what you're talking about with that sentence. Perhaps if you shared more information about the terms in the sentence, I would understand it more. So that's the kind of feedback that you would give. It's a specific example. You're not saying that it is a wonderful, clear sentence. You're saying, here's what would improve it. And also as a general guideline, well, in fact, as a requirement of this assignment, you need to use the writing rubric tool that we've provided to you. And at this point, you have been given feedback on the writing rubric tool. That's what I'm going to use to give you feedback on your writing. So you should have at least seen it in action a few times, and that should be helpful to you. The procedure I suggest for you is to read the assignment of your peer for a first impression. Read it all the way through, try to focus on content only, and then comment in just a short 2 or 3 sentences about your general impression of this assignment that they have completed. Make sure that you identify at least one strength of this assignment. There are probably multiple strengths, so also point those out. Remember though, for this first impression, you only have 2 or 3 sentences. The second, I want you to read it again for suggested improvements. Use the writing rubric tool. Talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because you will see some ugly. Nobody is a perfect writer, myself included. I'm sure as you look through the materials in this course, you may find errors in the syllabus, you may find errors in my PowerPoint lectures, you may find errors in my speaking. And I am well aware that I have room for improvement, and I believe everyone has room for improvement. So while I don't want you to focus on the bad or the ugly, I do want you to bring it up and discuss how to improve. So I want to go through the writing rubric components, but what I want to do as I go through these is to share with you questions you might ask or things you might point out in addition to what's already on the writing rubric. As an example, the completion portion of the rubric has written under it, the paper complies with specific guidelines provided by the instructor, and it has 2 bullet points. The paper sufficiently addresses each topic specified, and the paper meets page count requirements. So, you know, in addition to giving feedback on these bullet points, which I want you to do in every section, for example, with these 2 bullet points, you might say, The paper did address each topic specified in the assignment guidelines, and the paper was 3 pages long, which was well within the page count requirements for this assignment. But additionally, I'm going to give you other options. So, for example, in regards to completion, you might suggest ways to reduce or increase the length of the work if it's not the appropriate length. You might say, I think you could increase the length of this assignment to the required page count length by, for example, adding more information about a particular concept. So, it's hard. I don't have an assignment to give you a specific example, but that's how it would go. Or you may say, if you take out the paragraph on page 3 about so-and-so, that would reduce the length to the required page count. So give very specific ways to help the student in their revision process. Be effective with that. And the other point I would like to point out on completion is that you could possibly say to them, you could indicate any missing sections or any topics of the assignment that they did leave out. So don't just, give them a score and leave it at that. In your comments, I want them to be substantial and specific so that they can take that feedback and improve their paper. In organization, in addition to commenting on the specific bulleted points on the writing rubric, you might help to briefly outline the assignment so that you could share with them, you might say something like, in the introduction you said you were going to talk about this concept, but in outlining this assignment I can't find this particular concept discussed anywhere. That would be very helpful, and you would see that very clearly if you're outlining the assignment. And just briefly, I'm not talking about a detailed outline, but just so you can see the organization. You might also comment on the ease or difficulty of following the flow of ideas through the paper. And if you think transitions are the problem, you might suggest new or better transitions that could help the reader follow the writer's flow of ideas. You also need to indicate headings. Headings in APA are a way to organize the paper. If the paper does not have headings, or they're ineffectively used or inappropriately formatted, then that's going to be detract from the ability to follow the ideas. So you do need to make sure that APA headings are present and appropriately formatted. For development, in addition, of course, to the bulleted points on the rubric, you might want to suggest ways to strengthen the development of the main ideas in this assignment. So you might use examples, you might say you need to give more information, you might say they could connect ideas to previous knowledge, and that would be helpful. However, whatever would help to strengthen the development and make sure it's fully developed, you need to make sure you're giving them examples. And also you could include suggestions regarding addressing alternate explanations or views. A lot of times writers aren't good at anticipating potential problems with their logic or seeing alternate ways to do something. So you might want to say, well, I think a lot of readers will have questions about this, or will have this opposing view. And when that happens, it's most important that you address those views ahead of time. Clarity, and some additional comments on clarity that you may suggest ways to make the ideas more clear, using examples or using familiar ideas or metaphors to explain it. Those are all good ways to increase clarity. You want to be careful about suggesting, for example, a detailed metaphor that might be very confusing, but a simple metaphor oftentimes will clarify ideas. Also, this would be a good place to comment on any charts or visual aids or tables that they use in their particular work. So be aware if the charts and tables are unclear, you need to mention that to the writer. Lastly, for credibility, I encourage you to indicate the quality of the APA in text and reference page referencing. You want to say, well, I noticed you made several errors in APA. You don't need to proofread for the student, but you can definitely let them know that there are APA errors they need to address. And if they make a common error, they make the same error repeatedly, you would want to tell them what that is so they could definitely correct it. But your job is not to edit this paper. That is a later step in the writing process. Your job is just to help with this writing rubric to help them figure out what could improve the paper. As far as credibility, last week we did talk about gauging the appropriateness of a reference and the quality of the reference. So to you, if you think that the quality of the references is poor, you need to mention that here. And you need to raise questions if information presented seems like it's maybe only partially true or it's inaccurate. Maybe it's not true. Or maybe their argument just isn't fully developed, so it doesn't convince you. If those are the cases, any of those, or there could be other things that make you question what's presented, then you need to bring those questions to their attention. If there's missing information, like if there was a new report that came out in the past 6 months, you need to share those resources with the writer as well so that they can add them to their paper and thereby increase their credibility. Remember, in the end, this is an assignment that is worth points. And as a matter of fact, it's 50 points this time, so that's a lot of points. You will be graded on the quality of your feedback. Now, what I'm going to do for you is share my feedback with you for the same assignment that you reviewed. So you'll have your feedback, how you reviewed it, then you'll have my review. I will also give you feedback on your feedback. So not only will you have my review the way I did it, but you'll also have feedback to improve your own feedback. This is getting redundant saying feedback over and over. But I think it is important that you hear my comments as well as you can see the way I did it. Now, if your way is different than my way, I'm not necessarily going to it's not going to be counted off because it's different, because we're two different people. We have two different perspectives. So our views will be a little different. Our feedback might not be exactly the same. However, if I give somebody 5 points out of 25 and you give them 20 out of 25, there's a problem. So I will share my feedback with you just for the assignment that you reviewed. But if our grades are way off, then we really need to, I'll say something about that in our feedback, and you won't get a good grade. If your evaluation is extremely different than mine, it's going to lower your grade. But hopefully, the main thing is you do get 2 attempts at doing peer reviews in this class. So if you don't do well on the first assignment, you will be able to do it again. So hopefully with my feedback, you'll be able to take that feedback and make improvements. I hope this has been a helpful lecture for you on using our writing rubric to provide feedback. And I hope that you enjoy doing this. This is something I encourage you to do even after this class with your peers. And the more feedback you get, the better your assignment's going to be, and that's the same for everybody. I was joking with my colleague, Dr. Gabbard, and we were talking about us giving feedback to each other, because even no matter what level you are writing at, you constantly get feedback, and every time you get feedback, it improves your writing. So it helps you greatly. So I encourage you to use peer reviewers and use this process well after this class is over. I will talk to you in my next lecture in the next few days. So enjoy your peer reviewing.